Hi, folks. With Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the trip that I did into. I live in an outer suburb, just in a national park area, but took a train trip into the city. I had a number of meetings there, and so. I don't take public transport that much and try and avoid it if I can. But given the vast, the mass migration coming into Australia and the dispersing all around the place, it's astonishing how quickly, when you're bringing 400,000 people a year into a country that's only got a population of 26, 27 million. I mean, that's a massive amount of people. And they're being sort of spread around. So areas that even 2 or 3 years ago were 100% white are now 50% white. I mean, it's that staggering, the difference that it's having. And bear in mind, you've got over a billion with a billion Indians. When they get the fuck out of India, will do anything, bribe anybody, break any law to get out of India and come to the West. And they come in vast numbers with the same talking point. I have always dreamed of coming to Australia. I have always dreamed since I was a little girl. I have always dreamed. And it's the same talk. Every one of them says the same fucking thing. So it's a well-practiced, well-rehearsed line. Anyway, so, and it's not just Indian. We're talking Chinese or Filipino, whatever, there's a whole. But Indians and Chinese making up the bigger part, with Indians, again, making the bigger part of the whole thing. So anyway, get on the train and now the train's an 8-carriage train, which is they're pretty decent sized carriages, and this is in the outer burbs. I remember getting onto that train just a couple of years ago, and there was hardly any. The train would be at best half full, and that would be in peak hour. And so now you're struggling to get a seat at all, even if you go to the rear, the carriage at the rear, which is going to be the furthest away from the escalators at the end. So that's the carriage kind of nobody really wants. So it's there. That's the only carriage I could get a seat in. So now this is peak hour, but nonetheless, it's incredible. Now again, the majority of the people on the train aren't white people. They're recent migrants. They're all chattering away in another language and so on. And where they do break into English for any reason, it's a very broken, heavily accented English. So they're fairly recent. These aren't the people that's, we only bring people in that speak good English. Oh, yeah, sure you do. So they're just mass migrant parasites. That's all they are. Now, I don't know what they're doing. How does someone that speaks English like that get a job? I'd like to know. But when they're competing with people that speak English, probably. But anyway, it's only in government departments, affirmative action, race, gender quotas, and so on, which just adds a cost to the taxpayer. These people aren't being hired on merit. They're not doing productive work. They're just being gifted affirmative action positions because, equity or something like that. Anyway, so on the train, and there are train platforms where train stations where the train stops, where there is not a single white person on the platform. I mean, not one. And I'm looking at this taking note. And again, these were just a few years ago. You would see a large number of white people on there, or majority of. And now you don't see any. There were schools. As the train goes along, there are schoolyards there where again you don't see a single white student. And whether it doesn't matter whether it's worse in the junior schools. That's where you see no white student, but in the high schools as well. Or you pass the sports team on the field or something like that, and again you're lucky to see a white person, a white kid, white student. No, do I actually? I mean, personally, do I care? Again, I'm a well-traveled guy. I've done international business for decades, and I'm quite used to being the only white guy in the room, or in the hotel, or in the restaurant, or the airport, or the hotel, or the plane. So I'm quite used to that. It's not. So does it particularly concerned? Well, no, I don't really care. Well, the concern I have is there's multi-layers of concern. One is we never voted on this. No one came and said, we're going to import a mass of illiterate peasants into the West and into Australia. Then nobody would have, the vote would have been no. It wouldn't even have been close. It would have been 90% no, 90% plus no. So the government, they knew they would never get approval from the people. So they just didn't ask. They just went ahead and did it. They denied they were doing it, or they tried to cover it. We need the skills. We're only going to bring in really skilled people. And then they brought in shitloads of illiterate peasants. I'm annoyed by the deception and duplicity, and I would argue the treachery that was used to dupe the public and to just ride roughshod over the public's concerns. And again, they always had the intention of importing masses of illiterate third world peasants, but just pretended and covered it up and lied about it, and then used mass propaganda campaigns. Anyone that complained was Hitler and this sort of stuff. So that's one concern. The second concern I have is these people jobs are having to be created for these people. They aren't needed. They're either going into artificial economy jobs, slave labor jobs, which is an artificial economy, it's not a real economy, or they're being gifted affirmative action jobs in multinational companies or particularly government departments. There are now entire government departments. If you want to renew your driver's license, you're lucky to see a single white person in there. You may see a white lesbian, but that'll be it. So these jobs, their jobs are being taken from white people. The original people who are already, jobs are being taken from them, or jobs are being invented and just artificially, nothing bullshit, do nothing jobs are being created using affirmative action, DEI, and all that sort of stuff, which is just looting the taxpayer. So stealing money from the taxpayer in order to create this farce of employment for and they're not all illegal, by the way. For mass migrants that aren't needed, aren't wanted, produce nothing, create nothing, and just parasite off the economy, whether directly or indirectly. If you create an affirmative action job for work that doesn't need to be done, then you're stealing money from the taxpayer to do it, and yet the taxpayer has no say in the matter. Unlike someone who's here already and falls on stony times and may need handouts or help or something, some assistance from the government, which is fine. But these are people coming from a third world country, being brought into Australia by globalist fiat, and then being handed benefits more generous than a local person could have got. So these are the areas where I have the the issue. Do I care? No, but I care about those things. This was forced on us without our consent, without the consent of the people, and that's my primary concern here. So as the train gets closer and closer into Sydney, this is downtown Sydney, gets closer and closer into Sydney, the proportion of white people drops off sharply. So when it starts to go around the inner city area, the train. At times, I'm the only white person in the carriage. So anyway, I get in a little bit early. So I decide to take a walk. There's the train station where I'm getting out splits into like three separate underground walkway shopping arcades. And they've got a mixture of shops and clothing shops, shoe shops. Food shops and so on. So I walk down one which is about 500 meters, I suppose, before it comes up to street level again. And so I walk along that and having a look around, and so I'm walking slowly so I can look inside as I go by. Look inside, and the shops on both sides. I can look at who's in shops. There's not one. Not like there was one or two. There is zero white people working in it. They are all Asians. They are all midgets, and they all, with a few exceptions, they all seem to have bad knee and back, rickets, that sort of stuff. So they've clearly come from impoverished third world circumstances. And somehow, how did they get into Australia? Yeah, why would you bring in a 4'10" illiterate peasant midget to Australia that's got serious health problems. Why would you do it? I mean, seriously, no sane country or society would do that. Now, they are working in what I would call slave labour type circumstances, the takeout food shops, the retail stores. So these are the lowest of the lower paid. How many of them are brought in through labour hire, scam labour hire firms and living 20 to a 2-bedroom apartment, and they've got I don't know what their salary or their wage is packaged up with accommodation and food and this sort of thing through scam labour hire and tax avoidance type fronts. I'd say most of them, if not all of them, there'd be very none of them are here in Australia under their own natural organic transport. They come from peasant villages, impoverished peasant villages. What, they just got out of bed one day, you know what, I'm going to go to Australia. No. Professional agitators, and people movers, people smugglers came around to arrange everything for them. They're illiterate peasants, for goodness sakes. So they're everywhere. And I thought, well, how good is that? This means the entire economy of this arcade and the entire economy of this sort of employment, all of it's artificial. None of these shops could exist if they had to pay, or very few could, if they had to pay proper legal wages. And none of them could exist if they had to pay people, in accordance with local Australian laws and industrial laws. They use labour hire scams to bring people in and put them in but that's the only thing that allows these shops, or most of them, to stay open. So that the Australian government isn't, the Australian taxpayer, they're not collecting any tax from these people. So anyway, so I did the meetings. One of the meetings had a couple of Indian Brahmin guys there, and very Indian and very the manner and the way they that slow shaking of their head and looking at the ground as they respond to something. And it's difficult to sort of put up with. Now, well, I had one outfit sort of kicked the meeting. They pushed it out by a couple of hours. Somebody was supposed to come that wasn't there yet. It off. I thought, oh, that's fine. I'll go and get a sandwich or a cup of coffee or something. And so I wandered down to a precinct that often has like trade shows, expos, that type of thing. And there was one on there, so I thought, oh, I'll go in there and wander around. That'll help me kill some time. And it was like a business expo, I suppose you'd call it, something like that. and I was surprised, or maybe not actually, but perturbed, maybe is a better word than surprised, about how many outsourcing businesses there were there. So whether it be from the Philippines or India or Pakistan or Bangladesh or any fucking third world country you care to name, cheap peasant labour, third world country, they were there offer two things. There were businesses there offering to, I don't know why, how does the government let these people even have expos? But they were offering two things. One is, don't do your work in Australia, we'll do it offshore for you at half the price. So whether it's accounting, whether it's whatever it is, whatever, whether it's data analytics, software programming, anything, we'll do it offshore for half the price, less than half the price. So don't get it done in Australia. Now they want to sell their services into a first world country, but have third world labour doing the work. So that was one, and they were. I was staggered at how many there were. Maybe that was the surprise. And this is meant to be a local, expo on high-end value-add services in a first world country. But in fact, there was just this massive gaggle of third world countries that were chasing the business. Well, why is that allowed? Why not tax them or tariff them? Now, but the next layer, this is particularly concerned me, was that the third world companies or businesses or people that open up a business in Australia, the rich Brahmins, the Chinese Communist Party generals, the mafia goons out of the fucking Philippines or whatever, when they open up a business in Australia, because they want to sell to first world cashed up customers, when they open a business in Australia, they still have all their work done in the third world country. I mean, they'll have a minimum amount of people here. They'll typically hire one token Aussie. If it's an Indian company or all these companies where they've all got dark hair and brown skin and this sort of stuff, then they'll typically hire a blonde chick or a redheaded chick with freckles. The novelty value is just off the charts for them. So they have one token, but they'll bring work unless they're direct family members seeking prestige. I work in a first world country. Unless it's family members playing the prestige card, they'll bring out peasants from their country. Again, Pakistan, wherever it is, they'll bring peasants to work in Australia to do the donkey work or whatever donkey work they're going to do here. And again, they're effectively slave labor. Maybe these people don't get paid at all. Maybe they sleep on the floor and eat the scraps, but their money is given to their family back in Pakistan. And so they'll maybe there's that. But the interesting thing is they're not bringing a business to Australia to add value to Australia, to create jobs in Australia. They're not doing it. It's the complete opposite of that. In fact, they're doing the reverse. They're coming to Australia just to extract as much money as they can out of the white people in Australia, whilst doing all the work back in, again, the third world country. There's no Australians are getting jobs out of this. No Australians are benefiting. The company manages it so they don't pay any tax in Australia. And yet there's this idea that, all these foreign entrepreneurs, all these entrepreneurs that are coming to Australia, wow. No, it's a fucking disaster. And they're all using their offshore company, their offshore peasants back in, again, the third world shithole. They're getting all the work done there or importing to Australia. So these businesses that are being opened are just stealing from the white people in the first world country, but they're not adding any value at all. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel, and thank you for listening.